Welcome to AG's Ace. The big question for today is, why is the opposition in India such an abject failure in carrying out its role in a very important democracy? Now, I believe that the opposition lacks an original agenda. It is all the time reactive to what the BJP or the NDA is doing, which is not good. They are trying to punch holes into the BJP narrative, hoping that some floodgate will open. So far, they have steadily lost ground. They need to have their own shadow cabinet. They need to improvise on their own. They need to have a strategy, a clear-cut strategy, a plan which is original and which should appeal to the people to vote for them, or at least make them think that the opposition is on its own path and not all the time punching holes in what the BJP is trying to do. So that is step one, and a very important step at that. Let's talk about the Congress. Now, Congress, despite being only present in two states, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh, it is still in various ways the only national level opposition party left in India which can lead the charge. I believe that Rahul Gandhi said the right thing when he made a remark, and it was not meant to tarnish the regional opposition parties, when he said that possibly only the Congress can be the national level opposition party with its experience, background, legacy, and not the regional parties which are too steeped into the state level politics. He is right in various ways. But that hasn't stopped the opposition parties from sniping at each other. Now, like I said, the Congress has steadily lost ground. It is confined to two states. It has steadily lost good people from its own party. And I'm not referring to the G23, but people like Himanta Biswa Sarma, Jyotiraditya Scindia, Jitin Prasad, RPN Singh, all pretty competent people, and two of them did maximum damage. For example, Himanta Biswa Sarma, being a specialist from the Northeast, he was mentored by the Congress. He was mentored by the now deceased Tarun Gogoi, who was the Chief Minister for a long period of time. And he got disgruntled later because he felt he was not being given his due. He came to see RG a couple of times in Delhi, and later he said that he was very disappointed with the aloofness shown to him, the disinterest that RG showed towards him, and also he felt that RG was elusive. So I heard Biswa Sarma quit the party. He won Assam for the BJP, opened the floodgates for the Northeast, is one of the main architects for the BJP to move into the Northeast, where the BJP had never earlier stepped into in any major way, and he has led the charge. Jyotiraditya Scindia sank Madhya Pradesh. He, according to RG himself, was one of his closest friends. He could walk into RG's home whenever he wished to, would sit next to him in the Lok Sabha. But the strange part is that Jyotiraditya Scindia also felt stymied all the time by leaders like Kamal Nath, who were much older to him. He felt that he hadn't got his due. There was the shadowy figure of Digvijay Singh, aka Diggi Raja, also in MP. And some of his demands he felt were not being met. His camp of over 20 MLAs were getting restive. He walked out of the Congress into the BJP, secured a good deal for himself and for his camp of MLAs, and that was the end story for Madhya Pradesh. In Rajasthan, Sachin Pilot too led a campaign against Ashok Gehlot for alleging mistreatment and also for being denied certain positions. He also felt that the MLAs in his camp were being ignored. Sachin Pilot, for his own reasons, stayed back, did not trust the line, but he remains a CM in waiting. I just felt that the other day, Ashok Gehlot was on a tour to Rajasthan, and he made a snide dig at Sachin Pilot, saying that Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, one of the key BJP ministers from the state, who is at the center now, so Sachin and Shekhawat were in connivance, and their plan had failed. So I just feel that it was such a unnecessary point to make, and a dig at Sachin Pilot at this stage when the Congress is trying to strengthen itself, and Sachin Pilot still remains very close to RG and Priyanka. The Congress is plagued by a couple of things: lack of cadre strength, lack of funding, and also lack of effective strategy to counter the BJP. RG was going at a trot in one of the last elections. Still on the Rafale deal, he came up with this line of his against Modi, where he said, "Chaukidar chor hai." Only a very foolish person would make personal insinuations of personal corruption against a person like Narendra Modi. It was a big blunder on RG's part, for which he paid the price. And let's admit one thing, that people are not willing to either believe or they don't even want to believe such insinuations, which RG found out at his cost. Even on the China policy, there were some dramatic, aggressive remarks made by RG, and I still felt that where the China crisis is concerned at the border, it's a legacy problem, it's a legacy issue. It has festered over several years. Yes, it has exacerbated in recent times. Things came to a flashpoint, and the BJP has been trying to handle it. There could be criticisms, but to say that overnight I have a magic wand is all wrong. Coalition politics is also failing. Look at what is happening in Maharashtra with the Aghadi Sarkar falling apart almost, and the Shiv Sena unraveling very poorly. BJP has thwarted coalition politics in recent times in UP and Karnataka very, very successfully. So it is not as if that if a couple of parties come together and form an alliance in a state, they can all the time be expected to hold their position. That may not happen at all. The presidential polls is another classic example of the opposition strategy going all wrong. Mamata Banerjee thought that another Khala Habe campaign could be done in Delhi. She tried to stymie the Congress, tried to arrest the initiative, spoke to Mr. Sharad Pawar, came to Delhi, organized a meeting. But the first move to get Sharad Pawar as a nominee went flat. He said no. Then Gopal Krishna Gandhi, he said no. After that, Farooq Abdullah also saying no. Then it came down to Yashwant Sinha, who had joined the TMC, who's known for being very, very politically embittered, as the main opposition candidate. But let's remember one thing, this whole game is about numbers. They did not have two important opposition leaders in their camp. One is Naveen Patnaik and the other is Jagan Reddy. Now, here are the numbers. Naveen Patnaik's BJD has 12 members in the Lok Sabha, 9 in the Rajya Sabha, 114 in the Assembly in Odisha. Jagan Reddy's party has 22 Lok Sabha seats, 9 in Rajya Sabha and 151 in the Andhra Pradesh Assembly. In terms of electoral college votes, NDA is falling short by only 13,000 votes, and one of them is enough to see them through. BJD has over 31,000 votes in the electoral college, and Jagan Reddy's party, YSRCP, has over 43,000 votes. Both have pledged their support for Draupadi Murmu, the BJP NDA candidate. So this is virtually game over. Again, a flop show. Now, the last point to remember is that regional satraps like Mamata Banerjee, Stalin, Naveen Patnaik, Nitish Kumar, Arvind Kejriwal, KCR, they nurture their own political ambitions. They all want to do a Modi, that make a transition from the state to the Prime Minister's chair. And none of them want to be the bridesmaid for anyone else. But they forget one very crucial thing, that the reason why Modi made a successful transition from Gujarat to Delhi was also because of the fact that two reasons. One is that BJP is well-oiled political machinery, and two is the ideological base and the cadre strength of the RSS. It ensured a smooth transition, and the rest is history. And that is what these leaders don't have. When it comes to the opposition holding campaigns, earlier, it was the opposition that would lead the charge, whether it was against Indira Gandhi's emergency era, the Mandal issue, the Masjid issue. Now, civil society basically organizes campaigns, whether it is the CAA or Agnipath or the farmers' agitation. The role of the opposition has diminished considerably. Because of the frustration building up among the opposition, quite a few chief ministers in the opposition-ruled states have started disrespecting the PM's chair, which in a federal polity should not happen. A certain protocol should be followed, irrespective of what you feel for the person, but at least respect the chair. KCR of Telangana did not show up at the airport to receive the PM. Mamata Banerjee refused to attend a meeting in Bengal because it was chaired by the PM. Third is then Channi, the Punjab CM, did not show up at the Bathinda airport, and remember the Punjab fiasco where the PM's cavalcade was stuck on a bridge for quite some time. That again should never have happened. The last point is, to close, that instead of a strategy, what we are looking at is personal ambition, frustration, anger, rancor of these opposition leaders. So when it comes to coordination, or when it comes to the prospect of a coalition, that is fast diminishing. And let us also remember that the 2024 Lok Sabha elections are not very far away. Thanks for watching AG's Ace.